can tune into any reality if you're in the present, but the human can never think of the present. The human cannot quantum leap. He can only live in the past and the future, where all of his failures are. There's no successful human in the future or the past.
This has to be my favorite Zherka rant of all time. It's me, Zherka Daily, and I have been unjustly demonetized by YouTube officials, and I demand instant monetization. This is message for all the YouTube officials. This is not reused content, guys. It's actually very transformative. I'm like Optimus Prime in this bitch. Now let's get back to the video.
Why do some people smoke and live to 100, Zherka? Come on, dude. We all know the answer. We're afraid of the answer. It's because all is the mind, okay? Bro, there's humans who break their legs and do the marathon still. There's mothers who lift cars to save their toddlers, okay? All is mind. Like, get with the program, bro. There is no other shame. Shame can only come from self. Winning can only come from self. Losing can only come from self. Tragedy can only be dwelt in the self. Eventually, you move on from tragedies, right? So this whole idea that there's an external and an internal, it's all wrong. Okay? There's only the self. There's only the internal. And you could call it selfish. You could say whatever you want. But this is the only thing you've ever battled with. Okay? If something external has made you a certain way, that's wrong. That's just wrong. You didn't deal with it correct. That's why you became that way. Okay? Two people, Chuck and Bob, go through the same trauma but have different results. Because one sense of I is different than the other. One sense of self dealt with it better. And once you realize it's all on you, but the Spirit of God dwells within you, then you have the Spirit to fix any problem that the external has given you. When really, the external is just reflecting an internal problem. The external cannot give you a problem. It can only reflect problems that are already within you. So if you see someone who's fat and it triggers you, it's probably you got some weight loss to do. That's why it's triggering you. It's your internal anger. You shouldn't linger in it.
Like the scale read 1 pound over, like I would take those pills that make you shit.
And these guys, this is too much, bro. These guys who are talking to me about, does positivity really work? I mean, Zherka for the last few months makes more than all of his friends and never has to do a job. I'm sure it's working for just Zherka and no one else. Bro, just use your mind correctly. Let's try it one time because they don't teach you this in school. I am not a bitch. 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 What are you thinking of? You're thinking of me being a bitch. Now you try it. You say, I am not a bitch. I am not a bitch. What do you think about you being a bitch? So your brain only builds on positive. I am the man. See? You can only build through positive. You cannot actually negate negative. You can only build positive. You can only be pro-life. You can't negate anything, right? You can't negate the nature that we're dealt. So you can only go up the ladder or down the ladder. And usually freezing, what people say, freezing is when people say I'm stuck, they're lying to me. They're not saying, John, I'm not going up the ladder and I'm not going down it. If you're stuck, it means you're going up and then down and then up and then down. That's what you're doing. You're doing 2 things healthy for yourself and 2 things bad. 2 things healthy, 2 things bad. And you feel stuck in life. Have you ever tried going healthy all the way? Why don't you go all the way? It takes 28 days for you to be second nature at anything you do. So after a month, you're free. Have you ever tried to do something correct for at least 1 month of your life? No, you haven't. Because you go up and down, and that's what these fat asses do. They go up and down. Today I'm dieting, today I'm not. That's all they do, and they get stuck. See it through the end. Let the seed blossom, bro. What is the sun, moon, and the stars? All these sparks that are broken out like this. What are they? The sun is your conscious. The moon is your unconscious. And when they work together through the alchemical marriage, they birth a star, your new guiding star, your new idea. Because a fantasy is always driving man. So what is your fantasy you're playing out? Is it the fantasy that you're stuck? Is it the fantasy that you're winning? And if it's the fantasy that you're winning, why are you afraid to bathe in that fantasy for longer than 2 days? Why don't you bathe in it for 30 days and see something through to the end for once in your life, just to see if it works? But you're so afraid. You're so afraid of that working, because that means you can never go back to your old life. And people love being losers. They love being, I love just watching Inception and eating some Fritos, and you love L's. Humans love L's. God can give you heaven and heaven mixed with hell, and you will always choose heaven mixed with hell, because you're a... That's why God said, here's the tree of life. We loved it, and we went away from it. Here's the tree of 50-50. Oh yeah, I don't deserve the tree of life, so I go to 50-50, and you still have a second chance, but you're still eating from the wrong fruit of the 50-50, or you got two fucking chances. One was infinite. And when you really think about it, you go, there's nothing that I've ever seen to the end that ever failed. You've never seen something through to the end that you failed at. Because even if you didn't get the outcome you want, you became who you want to be. That's what you're trying to do, is change your sense of self. When you change your sense of self, depression doesn't exist. Because depression is for your old self. This is your new self. And when you think of it, you go, wait, so that's what the Hermetic philosophers were talking about with the alchemical codes? And yes, that's exactly what they're talking about. That you can't paint a Davinci Mona Lisa until you change your sense of self. But can we all do that? Yes, the Spirit dwells in all. It's not just a literal fact, the scripture. It's also allegorical. It's hidden. There's some esoteric behind it, because you're supposed to figure it out yourself. You're supposed to play the role of Jesus. What are you talking about, John? It literally says you have to pick up your own cross. That's your life, your body you're attached to. What do you think it means by pick up your own cross? What do you think that means? It means you're going to battle your sense of self for the rest of your life. Why don't you get good at battling it? The crazy part is, Sneeko and these people we watch, they don't read Jung. They don't understand how the mind works. Jung had a schizophrenic patient losing their mind. They're obsessed with reality. Reality is everything's got to be like this. And Jung just said to them, hey, the brain doesn't swing in a pendulum of right and wrong. It swings from sense to nonsense. And the patient would just tell Jung about a beetle. There's this golden beetle in my dream, and this. And Jung, what did he do? In the middle of his 20th therapy lesson session with him, he opened the window, caught something, opened his hands, and out flew a golden beetle. And the patient was cured for the rest of their life. Their sickness never came back. Because the patient said, oh my God, that's the beetle in my... Now, it wasn't the exact beetle, but that's the beetle in my dream. And Jung said, yes. He had another patient who kept talking about, I live on the moon. I live... Because she had something traumatic happened to her. And so like in the movie Shutter Island, he would play the fantasy to the end. Some women would fall in love with him and say, you need to have my kids. I need to marry you, Carl Gustav Jung. You are the Christian that I need. And he'd say, let it run its course. She said, in 25 days is our marriage. And on the 25th day, they would wake up and have an epiphany and say, I don't actually want to marry you. He would let them run their delusion. And Jung's greatest work is when he says, this woman who keeps thinking she's on the moon because there's something happened to her and her mind fractured, she keeps talking about the moon. I'm on the moon. and I'm on the moon and I'm doing this on the moon. Jung said, he's talking to another colleague and he says, she's on the moon. She's on the moon in her mind. And the colleague responds to Jung and says, she thinks she's on the moon. And Jung says, no, she's actually on the moon. And the colleague stood like this and said, are you saying our minds build our reality? That in her head she's actually on the moon and she can't tell the difference? And that colleague was shocked when Jung became number one. And he spent the rest of his life going, holy shit, that woman is not on the moon in her mind. She's literally on the moon. She's literally on, that's what a winner is. A winner is on his fucking moon. Only losers think the world is objective. There is an objective fact to it, but it shifts, man. Humans literally change reality with their minds. Not that they're changing, creating, they're tuning into different worlds. There's a world where Zherka's talking to you like this and he's on a horse. And if we knew how to work our minds correct, we could tune into that world. And you'd say, what the fuck, how did you do that? You can tune into any reality if you're in the present, but the human can never think of the present. The human cannot quantum leap. He can only live in the past and the future, where all of his failures are. There's no successful human in the future or the past. And when you understand, is mind in the skull? No, bro. They can't target where the mind is. Nobody can. Is the mind yours? Because the soul is. So if the mind's not yours, it's ours. That the soul is split into many different pathways. Some pathways of justice, some pathways of temperance, some pathways, but it's all you. And the second you realize this, you go, is that why they had hieroglyphics instead of language, John Zherka? Why, yes, that's exactly why. That if I say, think of freedom, chat, and dwell in the feeling of freedom, chat says, I don't know how. But if I draw a white dove, you get the sense of freedom immediately. And you can take that symbol into the feeling, and the feeling cooks your moment. What do you think every YouTube channel you've ever watched on alchemy didn't get it right? They can't explain to you, how do you cook the fire in water? They don't understand the alchemical text because water is feeling, and fire is inspiration, and passion, and emotion, the right kind of emotion, the right kind. And so you grab your inspirational idea and you cook it in your feeling. What does it feel for you to have that, what you desire? And it starts coming your way. Let me tell you this, man. There's philosophy that took us nowhere in life. And then there's Hermetic philosophy that literally comes from the Bible. The Bible is the greatest code for fixing your life if you know what you're doing. You have no idea that code in the Bible is so guarded, because obviously if everyone thought like this, the world would get a little crazy. So obviously the stupid people can't know this secret, but this secret's in there. 90% of my chatters don't deserve this secret. That's why I freely say it, because they're never going to know how to do it. Only the initiated know how to do it. A loser will always be a loser because he doesn't live in the present, ever. That's why I can talk to losers and I don't feel like I'm giving them anything dangerous. They're stuck in that. A loser is always the past, always the present. And you can see when they talk about life, they talk about the past and the present and blah, blah, blah. Loser shit. But it is crazy to me how in high school they teach us memory games, how to remember things. They never taught us why the ancient Egyptians had hieroglyphics. Why was there a language of code, a philosophical code? Because certain philosophical patterns of thinking drive you into cooking a thought into reality. Which thoughts are the most cooked into reality by water? Thoughts where you're lustful and don't get no ass, where you're broke and only see Ferraris. They play the opposites against you through the TV. By the time you figure it out, it'll be too late.
IAM donated $5. Thank you, Zherka.
You're probably 30 years old and you're sitting there going, my life sucks compared to this guy. But the lives you have that are awesome, you never tuned into them. So you're a loser. I make more than this whole chat combined. And I'm just getting started. And here's the crazy thing is, if you tell a 20-year-old to correct his thinking to get everything he wants, do you really think he'll listen to me over his social media feed? Never. He needs TikTok. He'll never hear me until he's 40, 50 years old. By then, but now check this out. Most geniuses, inventors, at 55, they pop off because they figure out they spent their whole lives thinking wrong. You spent your whole life with that mindset saying, I want, and you still a broke loser. You're clearly in the elite's trap. That's crazy. You spent your whole life never changing your thinking. That hurts me too. You could not even play the imaginative game of you having what you want right now. You can't even run a simulation. And you're going to meet God and you're going to look God in the eyes and say, that's what imagination was for? I thought it was just to torture myself. That's what the imagination was for? That I can tune into the world I want? And God's going to be like, you really think in the scripture where I say you get every blessing your heart desires, you think I was bullshitting you there? You really think you can't eat from the fruit of life and get what you want because some Christian channel told you, now you got to be miserable and broke? You know why God made our imagination the testing grounds of our reality? To see if we can follow the care principle throughout our whole life. And we can't. We're all being homos about it. If you can follow the care principle, meaning care about yourself for 1 10-minute thought, you're free from the shackles forever. If you could say, you know what? I'm going to care about myself and what I want for 10 minutes. Go bask in the feeling of what you want. Tell me what you want. Say it out loud. And if you don't know, but if you know what you want, it's already coming to you. Now it might come out like a up little dirty rose, or it could blossom perfectly and you reap what you sow. The thoughts you plant today are being germinated in your sleep. That's why you sleep, you idiot. You don't sleep because you're tired. When you realize that the operator, the unconscious, is doing it all for you, you could ask yourself, how many negative thoughts have I watered? Like, think about it. You've watered the idea of I want, and you never got, bitch. You never got anything. You watered the ideas of I want. I want you to stop being a fucking loser, but you're still stuck. It's been 10 years and you're still stuck. Snap out of it, bro. And you look back in the times you're winning in life, you go, damn, I was being. There was flow there. Just look at your wins, bro. What books do you read? I read the Bible and that's it. One in the chat, that's it. And the Bible's the most misunderstood book I've ever seen. Like, I'll tell you this, bro. I'm at a point where I unfollowed every Christian channel because they're all saying the same satanic shit. They're saying to be a Christian, you cannot be a millionaire. You can't have what you... It literally says you can have what you want. And you're going to realize you don't even want it after that. How do you have what you want? When you bathe in the feeling that you already have it, meaning there's no greed. The desire is fulfilled in your imagination. It lowers greed over time when you follow the care principle. Self-care and care of others, you will not be obstructed by anything. You're good. You're golden. Now in the Bible it says you get angry. Be angry, but don't lose character. Don't lose your I am. You have a cross that you are walking through your life. That's your own suffering. And you're going to learn to be like Christ with that. And not bitch and moan and complain. I'll tell you this, bro. The greatest psyop was me. I'm not even going to say it. It's too much. It's too much.
Dedication donated $5. I appreciate your dedication, Zherka. I am. $1,000,000.00 millionaire.
Listen, you've said it without feeling anything. No state of arousal, no nothing. It's not going to happen. That's why I like for you guys to get into the habit of drawing your life. Even if it's a stick figure, it'll mean a lot to you. You'll see things clearer. Draw who you want to be and imagine you being that person, and you're going to see your feet take legs and start walking towards the right opportunities in life without your consent. Your unconscious behavior starts becoming positive. Oh yes, very positive. You who smoke weed and drink, that's your unconscious behavior. That's going to transmute into you seeking out opportunity. Why would people give you an opportunity? Is because they sense you don't need the opportunity, my dude. You don't need it. Because you already done it here. Now look at this. All the misery in your life, you generated that shit. You tuned into that shit. The guys that work with me, these guys are superstars. And they say time and time again, John, don't tell your chat this stuff because they'll never understand. This is like mastery level of how to think. And I said, okay, you're right. I'll come back to them in a couple of years with the Ferrari and show them, and by then it's fucking too late. I want you to have it now. And the weird thing is, you having this doesn't obstruct anyone else from having it. It's been jealously guarded throughout centuries, but bro, it's a frequency. There's a frequency where everyone's winning at the same time. Yeah, that exists. It was our first frequency. By design, that was our first tree of life. And we that up. So now we're in the 50-50 tree. And we're fucking that up. Because some days we're doing healthy things, other day bad things. 50-50. So your life's looking like 50-50. You understand? Of course you don't. Of course you don't understand.